Summerall.
I think you know which one I am. Would you know Pat O'Brien would steal my joke? I just told him backstage just a few minutes ago. Who else? I go back to introduce John Madden. I'm sure most of you read your program. And the bio of John, what he accomplished as an athlete. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles after an outstanding college career. He was an outstanding baseball player. He was, as I said, drafted by the Eagles, hurt his knee in training camp, never played pro football after that. Went on to get into the coaching career that was so successful for him. From there, after leading the Raiders to the Super Bowl, he decided he had enough of coaching, got into broadcasting, and the success that he's had in that field certainly goes without me going into any magnifying great remarks. I recall this will be our 18th year together this year. That is, if Fox chooses to bring me back. 18 years, a long time, but it doesn't seem like a long time. I recall the first game we did together back 18 years ago in Tampa, which was a very difficult place to broadcast from. You were so high, and their uniforms were difficult to distinguish because they were orange and white and very pale in both areas. And you could hardly see, and I got to the booth after John had already arrived. I didn't know him that well. We knew each other by reputation. But when I got to the booth, it was hot, but he was sweating like I had never seen anybody sweat. And I thought after we rehearsed the beginning of our broadcast for a few minutes, and the way he was sweating, I thought this is the wrong business for this guy. But after we started to roll, and I came to realize it was not so much the heat, it was his fear of that height that was making him sweat. After we started to roll, after about a quarter, I thought, hey, this guy's going to be pretty good. And by halftime, I said to myself, I hope I'm lucky enough to work with him. And by the time the game was over, I knew how good he was going to be. I didn't know he was going to be this good. Without going into a long dissertation about what the man brings to the booth and how good he is, I have learned over the years when to duck. I have learned to interpret the hieroglyphics that he calls the telestrator. I can make sense out of it. I know what he's trying to say. We've become very good friends. I think in the beginning we were acquaintances. Then out of the respect that we developed for each other, we became closer. And in recent years, we've developed a friendship that we don't really have to say too much about. It's just there, and I hope it always will be. If you wonder what makes him a success, and I think you could incorporate this into any business endeavor that you might undertake, if you wonder why he is so good at what he does, number one, he works harder than anybody I've ever been associated with in this field of broadcasting. And I've worked with some Hall of Famers. I've been in the business a long time, but I've never seen anybody prepare like he does. He works harder than anyone else. And through that work ethic that he has, it rubs off on everybody else who's associated. You heard what Bob Stinner had to say on that tape just a minute ago. He makes everybody who's with him a little bit better because of his presence. His preparation, his work ethic rubs off on everybody else. He's incredibly honest. I wish I had time to go into the good things that he has done, anonymously in many cases, quietly in all cases, the people he's helped. He just simply brings out the best in everybody. And I'll tell you another secret that John has, and I hope I have it. I looked up the word when I was first asked to introduce him. I thought, well, the ultimate thing that I can say about John Madden is he is a professional, and he certainly is. But I went through the Webster Dictionary and looked up the word professional, and every description, every definition of the word professional involved money in some way. Now, John accepts his paycheck, I'm sure. But it isn't the money that makes him what he is. What makes him what he is how much he loves what he does. And I'm sure he'll tell you that he has never been to work a day of his life. I know I haven't. Because that's how much fun we have and how much both of us love what it is that we do. I don't know what I'd do, and I know I don't know what he'd do if he couldn't broadcast and be around and be associated with the many people we've met in football, the many people he knows in football, the friends he's developed, and just the general association with the game that we talk about. We're so lucky to be able to love our work. I'm afraid a lot of people can't say that. I was looking for some way to introduce John on the way out here. I flew out from Philadelphia this morning, and I ran across a quote by the legendary Norman Vincent Peale, who said, ultimately, we're all going to meet our Maker, and we're going to have to answer just one question. What did you do with what you were given? And I wonder how many of us could say, I got the most out of the ability that I was given. Well, the man I'm about to introduce to you now, John Madden, has gotten the most out of the ability he was given, no question about it. I don't know how many people can say that. As Bob Sinner said, and I don't want to use too many of Bob's words, but I had written it down, and between he and Pat O'Brien, they got most of my speech. But he is right. He is incredibly accurate when he says he's the best there is, he's the best there ever was, and he is the best there ever will be. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the great John Madden.
I got to tell Pat a secret that the reason I sweat because I was fat. It usually does it. You ever notice that? That usually, you ever see skinny people sweat unless they work real hard? Fat people always sweat. It doesn't have to be anything. You just sitting there, boom, it's like, what the hell happened? You know, I was sitting there and reading through this souvenir program, and I really think that the people that ought to be honored are the people that put this together. You people that come here, the kids, really I do, because to raise $1 million for Cedars-Sinai and birth defects, I mean, we're doing something, and that's really what it's all about. If that didn't happen, if that weren't the first thing that happened, then these other things aren't important at all, and that's important. And it's so impressive to read the sponsors and the people that are here, and to see the kids here and the adults and people giving and coming out for a great cause. That's really what it's all about. And again, I commend all of you. I was thinking of Evander Holyfield and just thinking that you can get people like Evander Holyfield. I was standing back there. I feel like a jerk. I'm not bothering. I'm standing back there. And by Evander, and I'm looking at him, man, you talking about being, I mean, just, he's right, you know, I mean, fighters always aren't ready to fight. And I know that he has a fight coming up, which I would imagine most of you know. And I'm a fight fan. I'm a boxing fan. But I think that this is about the respect that this organization has, and about the respect that you people have, because fighters don't always walk around ready to fight. And I was looking at Evander, and I was saying to myself, he's ready to fight. I mean, he really looks good. He's ready to fight. So I said, geez, you look like you're ready to fight, Evander. He said, I am. I'm fighting Saturday. I said, shh. No, I mean, how dumb can you be? You don't even know. I'm in the, you know, like life, like zoom, you know, zoom, it went by. And I'm thinking, you know, here's this guy. I mean, imagine, he was up here 2 minutes ago, and he's fighting in Madison Square Garden. the heavyweight champion of the world. Now that's given something. And I think he's given out of respect for this organization. And because that, Scott Hamilton and Evander Holyfield, what they do by themselves. I mean, they go up there, and Evander Holyfield, you go up there in your underwear, man, and you have to fight, and everyone's watching, and you don't get to bring anyone out there with you. And that's an individual award, and that's different from this. I mean, mine is about a team, and it's about being part of a team. And I've always been part of a team, and there's no I in the word team. And my team is a couple of teams. One is Fox, and Fox Sports has done an amazing job. I mean, when you go back in television history, what Rupert Murdoch did, he said he wanted to get into sports. Now, most guys that weren't in sports wanted to get in. They go by, a volleyball tournament or something. He goes and he gets the NFL. Boom, takes it away from CBS. Hires David Hill. David Hill comes out here and he makes something happen. He runs something. He brings new ideas to football. Ed Goren, just works like heck, and they start getting baseball and they get hockey and they get everything. I mean, they make something happen. And they're a team, and they're a great team to be with. And they're a great team to be with, and they're in Los Angeles. They're the network that's in Los Angeles, and the sports network, and again, they're part of this community that does all that. That's one team. My other team is Pat Summerall, Bob Stenner, our producer, Sandy Grossman, our director. That there's a quote in here, and I was just reading through this while I was in, and I was reading every page, and I believe this, and Sir Isaac Newton said it. Now, that goes back a hell of a long time ago when Sir Isaac Newton was talking about that, but he said, if I've been able to see farther than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. And I was thinking, that's kind of what teamwork is all about, and that's kind of what any award that I get is for our team, and it's a Giants. It's a Giants of Pat Summerall. I knew that things were going to work out with Pat. The first time we do a Super Bowl, I got to go over this quickly now. But the first, Mike Weissman saying, "Hurry up, hurry up." So anyway, but I got to tell this because it just shows. It just goes to shows to go you. With the first Super Bowl we're in Detroit. Now what you do is you have a stand-up, and you have a hand mic and telex for that. You do the hand mic, talk. You got the thing, and then you have to put down the hand mic and telex. Then you go put on your headset to do the game. So I'm there, and Pat would do the hand mic and telex, and then he'd ask the last question. Then they'd do a one shot of me, and then Pat would go and put his headset on so he could announce the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl. I mean, they're watching all over the world. So I finish what I'm saying, and I'm sitting there, and Pat doesn't have his headset on. So I'm looking, I'm thinking, you can't talk because you got live mics. You can't say, "Hey, Pat, what's wrong with you?" Or "What's wrong?" Pat, so I'm sitting there, I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and it's a Super Bowl. There's no air. So finally, he starts pointing to me. So I, what the heck? And then he starts pointing down below, and lo and behold, I said, fat guy sweaty. The other thing, I was sitting on his headset. True story. So now I realize I'm sitting on his headset, so I pull it out like this and hand it to him. And he just takes it and puts it on, makes a few adjustments, doesn't say a word, and says, "The San Francisco 49, Cincinnati Bengals, San Francisco kicks off." And he does it. And I said, "Man, that's a friend and that's a pro." But anyway, I say that's what a team is all about, and I want to thank you for this, and I want to applaud all of you for doing well. What you do is something special, and something more special to the people you do it for. Thank you.